Issue 110. After we see Sonic, or maybe Tails, seeming to dream about Sonic evilly smirking while there's dust behind them, they get woken up by Uncle Chuck, who tells Sonic 5 hours before breakfast that both him and Tails are supposed to go to the castle right now. They're warned that it's going to be bad news, but despite the anxiety situation, Sally looks eerily emotionless once again as she says that Nicole had received a satellite transmission. It's really saying something that even Nicole is showing more emotion than Sally right now, by expressing exasperation at and lampshading the fact that she has to once again do exposition on a satellite transmission. The president of Station Square had told her that after the city's outer threat immobilization system downloaded all the data on Robotnik into his mainframe, it's changed its command protocols from defensive to offensive. Why is it able to decide to do that on its own? Who programmed it to do that? Who thought that was a good idea? Anyways, the OTIS has naturally viewed Eggman as an enemy to be eliminated, and has launched an atomic strike against Robotropolis. Why does he act like that's a bad thing? I didn't think it happened that fast. Poor Nate. And Sally is keeping herself calm instead of looking nervous and worried at all. Too calm. She's supposed to be good at looking level-headed, cool, and collected in a tough situation, but not this good. She doesn't even look serious. More like she's suppressing her worrying so much that she seems to have no emotions at all. And let me remind you, this is not a critique against the artwork. This is very much intentional. Sonic then explains that while yes, Robotropolis will be destroyed, the environment will be poisoned from it forever, and so will the people of Knothole. I can understand why the OTIS would see that as a necessary sacrifice for the greater good, but even if it succeeded and that poisoning happened, even without Eggman alive, there'd still be other villains that the Freedom Fighters have to be around to fight, like the Iron King and Queen, who inexplicably aren't really doing anything. Sally explains that it's too late. The missiles are on their way and will be here in 20 minutes. And nobody questions the fact that she doesn't even look even the least bit scared. Not even any stress lines. She's like a robot. I actually laughed at how after a Shadow Swapbot snarks, "You don't have to tell us twice, Dr. Robotnik," Eggman gets all mad and shouts at him. I'm glad they finally remembered that Swapbots used to talk like normal people. Sonic says to Eggman that as reluctant as he is about it, he's here to call a truce. Sonic and Tails had gone here to warn Eggman, although Eggman finds out about himself anyway since an alarm goes off and he sees 3 warheads on a screen heading for him. Sonic tells Eggman that if Robotropolis goes down, so does Knothole, but not if his orbital defense satellites shoot down the missiles before they would get here. Snidely whispers in Eggman's ear, and I immediately assume that they're both going to backstab Sonic and find a way to somehow make it so that Knothole's the only one destroyed. And Eggman says no and threatens to have Sonic thrown out. Sonic naturally exclaims, "Are you totally nuts? The city's toast, you wacko!" Then Eggman reminds Sonic that he has a force field to protect the city. Oh, right. That thing. Sonic then races to put the force field out of commission to force Eggman to shoot those missiles down. Eggman panics at how there's no time to rewrite the command codes for the force field. Snidely says it doesn't look like Sonic and Tails did anything to the force field, as I wonder how they're able to do anything to it at all without completely destroying it or visibly damaging it. And as Sonic is flown by Tails up to the top of the warhead and flies above the force field before it can activate and trap him there, it turns out that the missiles get sent right inside Robotropolis and blow it up with everything being contained in its force field, which was activated too late. Of course, Eggman and Snively will survive this. Why wouldn't they? They're the main villains. And plus, I already know they're in the later issues. They'll really bend over backwards to keep these two around. Sonic reveals that although he had indeed forgotten the force field existed, once he was reminded about it, this was his plan all along. He wanted it to happen after the missiles were safely inside. So wait, Sonic has moral qualms about killing Eggman, which is why it took him so long to beat Robotnik. But he can still be pushed into trying to do it here, as long as Knothole's in danger. Well, he is an anti-hero after all. But I wish that was pointed out a little more. Tails reveals that he was told to pretend to deactivate the force field by Sonic, explaining why it didn't look damaged at all. Then why did Eggman think he could activate it if he thought it was damaged? And Sonic says that he had to buy some time for the missiles to get here. After Tails says that they'll never be able to live in Robotropolis again due to the fallout, Sonic happily reassures him that Knothole feels more like their true home anyways. I agree, especially now that it's a kingdom with a castle in it. Although, you know, technology is shown to be able to do literally anything, and so is the magic of the Chaos Emeralds. So I can easily believe that they could just get rid of all the fallout. Don't they realize that? The next story starts out with Sally with no eyeballs again, floating while holding the Sword of Acorns. Seriously, I don't know what the sword has to gain in getting rid of her eyeballs. And she says that there's a disturbance in the source. For some reason, the king actually has to tell the queen what the source of all is, even though she's been married to him for years. He's reminding me of Locke right now. The king explains that while Sally rejected the source, as in didn't agree to always know the consequences of her actions even 20 years later, the source didn't reject her, naturally. Sally, staring down at what looks like planets in space, wonders where she is, as I wonder what compelled her to grab the sword in the first place, other than maybe it brainwashing her from a far distance to do so. The sword explains that she's on the road to the sword's destiny. She's shown a vision of the present, and she's told that while both Eggman and Robotropolis have been destroyed, the source of all was too, since it was in Robotropolis. Oh. So? The Sword of Acorns and crown are all that remain of it. Sally makes a fool of herself asking the stupid question of how she can know all of this, when it's obvious the sword is giving her a vision. She is then given a vision of the past, and asks how the Sword of Acorns saved her from falling to her death, and why. She's asking why it didn't let her die? Well, I'm sure she didn't intentionally mean it that way. Why isn't it obvious to her that the Sword of Acorns doesn't want the current princess to die? After her time is wasted with her being shown some ninjas rather than the sword simply explaining why it saved her life, she reaffirms that she doesn't want to know what's going to happen in the future. The sword creeps me out by insisting that she has no choice. So I guess this is how they're going to justify the Sword of Acorns not being regularly used by Sally to let her be more on Bunny's level of competence. Seems pretty arbitrary. It's a shame. Although it is creative. The story ends with Sally being pulled out of the portal to the source of all in time, and hugged by her mother, who is crying out of worry for her, and says, "Oh my poor baby, what's happening to you?" Wow, I really feel sorry for both of them here. The first story was by Benny Lee, and involves Robotropolis being destroyed by Station Square's automatic military defense system, along with all of the roboticized overlanders, like Nate Morgan. Sonic and Tails were able to make sure the force field was activated too late by buying some time distracting Eggman, making him trap the explosion and all of its negative effects in his empty city. Come on, of course Eggman and Snidely will be fine, they're the main villains! They'll finagle some bullshit way to bring them back. I just don't know what. All of Robo Robotnik's bodies are in that city, so yeah, it was epic, and had an excellent source of tension. And the second story, and final story, by Carl Bullers, has Sally being forced into the source of all dimension by the Sword of Acorns, since it's so traditionalist that it insists on making Sally know what's in the future and confirm to the previous royalty before her, just for the sake of it. It's probably viewing her as just having stubborn teenage rebellion, and I can understand why. Knowing what's in the future has a tactical advantage, but she doesn't want to feel less human. Well, less like a regular mortal, I mean. And the Sword of Acorns doesn't have experience with being a mortal, so it wouldn't be able to appreciate not wanting to feel that way. With the sword not respecting her wishes, and I assume brainwashing her into going to grab it to pull her here, I can understand why she'd be creeped out. It really is a shame. Sally'd be useful enough to go on adventures with Sonic more if she was allowed to just have the Sword of Acorns with her no problem. And don't tell me it'd suck because she'd be overpowered. If anything, she's underpowered. She barely gets to do anything. And Sonic's overpowered too. He's even turned intangible a few times.